Ora, boa tarde a todos. Como já devem ter reparado, mesmo aqueles que estão no órgão, que voltámos à sala das sessões, que é qualquer coisa que não fazíamos há cerca de 2 anos, não é? Que isto é uma boas-vindas à sala das sessões que tinham desaparecido da nossa memória, mas eu achei que era bom que a gente voltasse aqui. Atendendo a que temos hoje os conferencistas que não vão português e vai aqui em inglês, eu, para o benefício dele e também de todos os outros, vou falar em inglês, desde já. Já sei que os nossos speakers portugueses falam em inglês também. Para eu avisar que falariam em inglês se a gente pudesse ser. Aqui é costume, nestas condições, usar a língua inglesa em vez da nossa língua pátria. Mas estamos bem no mesmo. So, it's about time. We've already passed the time, 7 minutes. I'm sorry. I apologize to all of you that are looking forward to the session. And now, without any further ado, I'll introduce our colleague. Our colleague, yes. Probably his name is Varandas. I'm sorry, I never remember names. And I'll try to learn something of chemistry, which is, please, the floor is yours. Estás compartilhando? Sim, sim, está bem.
E agora depois nós vamos fazer a sua apresentação. Partilhar toda a gente vai ver o que vai partilhar.
Oh, never mind. Let's go. Let me remember that I should recall University and the stuff about himself, like in spent my time. The topic of my talk, I will focus on, for a chemist it is essential to have quantity besides quality. That means we need to compare with experiment, and so we need the most precise numbers as possible. This is a problem, both in electronic structure, often known as quantum chemistry, and on scattering, either quantum or classical. So I'm trying to show you some pragmatic view, how to go beyond with the tools at our disposal, and to go to the limit, what I call CBS limit, the complete basis of limit. That means the solution, the variational solution for a new equation. So I will try to cover what is in black. data abstraction. I will just that I will rest a little bit about quantum, and then go to some impact topics. Referring to the methods, carbon classes, and other. But there is also a setting we try to explain things in mechanics in a tautological way. We do a calculation and we explain the molecule. This is unfair because different calculations will different results. And so if we pick one calculation to explain some calculations, it may not be quite the same.
Ninguém vai ouvir. Em casa ninguém ouve. Aqui ouvimos, mas em casa não.
Okay, sorry. First remarks, let's go on. So I will separate things in two parts that I'm starting and some impact topics, but I won't pass through. I will refer to photography. And also, I will try to explain linearity and planarity of a molecule, not with calculations for that molecule, but with calculations for fragments of that molecule. So let's go on. Let's go first to refresh our minds and say that chemistry and physics are just a reality of approximation. There are no exact, there are no atoms or molecules that are conceptual. And this depends. But I must say that the most important thing, one of the possibilities for most of the is so-called we try to
Eu tenho aqui mais gás, mas espero que isto não comece a chegar.
to remember our friend and confrade Providence. He was one of my coworkers. So it is a pleasure to say that with him, we published a paper in which we tried to go to say up to which mass ratio is the bond of number valid. And we came out with the conclusion that after this mass ratio is 2 women 50, the bond of number approximation works with 80% of the emission. So we quantify the bond of number approximation, more or less. So, okay, let me continue with some matters of time. It's a pity that we cannot read the title. Is it possible to read the title? If you reduce a little bit the size of the image. Yeah, because we cannot read what it's saying. Okay, well, the world is complicated, as you can see. You have the Born number plane, in which we disentangle the motion of the nuclear from the various potential indices. You see, you have adiabatic, everything that goes on in this plane is so-called adiabatic treatment of dynamics, electronic coordinates, nuclear coordinates. Then we have non-adiabatic processes, we have time. And we have been working most of these quadrants of things. We have been working on discussions today. We have been working on quantum reaction. I will not refer on it, but I give reference, so if you are interested in some reference. And I will focus more or less on the form of number. You can see there is a thing that we call the basis set size. That means as far as you go, it should be. This is the one electron basis set. It means that the variation of your property will be correct in a single reference. Of course, if you want it to be correct on this, on a multi-reference, to face today two coordinates, the basis set size and the nucleus size, and we hope to do this in a pragmatic but accurate way. Let me just refresh you. If you take the ratio of this, the cost ratio of this with that, you get a factor of 400 4,096 times more expensive this one. So you see, you can smile if you are in the double zeta for a diatomic. You can smile if you wish to go to an infinite zeta, but you are worried if you want to go beyond that. Let's see how we face this. We have a review on all these aspects in this recent paper. So I'm glad if you consulted, but you got a fair idea of what's going on. More matters of fact. Oh, this does not move again. We are stuck with this. This does not move. I'm afraid you have chosen the wrong speaker. It's already complicated per se. Yeah, right, very good. Okay, so more matters of fact. You have tools in quantum chemistry. You have single reference tools. You have DFT, is the heaven for most chemists and physicists. We are going to use it seldomly, but there is also this MO approach, and you have single reference, multi-reference. You have many concepts, you have couple cluster, multi-reference, many-body perturbation theory. Let me just say the following. This is the cheapest one, but it used to be already expensive. It scales in this way. Fn is the number of atoms, and Nu is the number of unoccupied orbitals. So you can see that to go to convergence, you have to pay a lot. We have modified recently this method to attain the properties of couple cluster singles, doubles, and triples, perturbative triples, and we publish it, and we called it, variable opposite spin MP2, and somebody commented that it works pretty well. So I will not enter into details, but we are in this business of going from DFT up to multi-reference here. So let's go to the next. What is the idea? The idea in chemistry is that we have here a line of easy things. This is a basis set. This is an electronic structure calculation ab initio for a basis set smaller than double zeta, and we call it subminimal. You have the minimal basis set. You have already the extended basis sets. This is in dynamics. You have the reaction probability. Quantum, let's assume quantum, in which you transit from the vibrational state V and J to V prime and J prime. You calculate cross sections, you calculate rate constants. And then this is easy for a diatomic, eventually a tetratomic. It's not easy for larger molecules, but there is one easy thing is classical mechanics or classical dynamics. The question is, can you extrapolate this result to the exact solution, the quantum result, with the help of classical mechanics? That's the way we do it. The other thing is, can we extrapolate these results, which are feasible even for large molecules, to the infinite, to the complete basis set limit in an ab initio manner? Well, we can do this part. We have been the first, I would say, to go from this, the subminimal basis set, so we will see later on what it means, to the infinite basis set pretty efficiently. Please read my papers. Well, you have here already a few references here and there, so you can see what's going on. Let's go to the first part, electronic structure. It's a composite approach in which we divide the total energy into R3-Fock and correlation, and we extrapolate each of them because they scale in different ways. The R3-Fock and the correlation scale in different ways. And so we question, what is the limit of the total when X, the basis set size, goes to infinity? And then we ask, can wave function MO type based methods dwell CONSHAM DFT in accuracy and cost-wise? My proposal is that the answer is yes. Okay, so let's go on. Let's understand what's going on. We have here the radial quantum number. We have the principal expansion. You can see the principal expansion in the numbers. 1s, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have in the partial wave expansion. Both should lead to the same result. And indeed, if you look to helium, you can see that they go to the same result. Both of them go to the same result. When you increase either the principal, when you increase the basis set either in this principal expansion or the partial wave expansion. But it's very slow, the convergence. You need to go to x equals 9 to get something converged up to these R3s. Well, we can ascribe the blame, we can blame this to the fact that there is the so-called cusp condition. When you have two electrons, the two electrons sit over each other, so you have a discontinuity in the wave function, and yet you know that the variation at this should be a constant. So this is well known since Cato, and this explains why we extrapolate differently the R3 fork and the correlation energy. Okay, we have done this, following some work, theoretical work by Katzelnig and Morgan in '92. And we know nowadays that the energy extrapolates in this way, where X is the basis set. The X is the key thing to define. How can we extrapolate? Extrapolate always comes to our mind as something very dangerous. We just remember the Runge phenomenon in mathematics, in which you fit equidistant numbers with polynomials of increasing size and you oscillate. Well, it will not happen. So we know how it extrapolates, and we can see that in order to extrapolate precisely, you should do 3 calculations for a given S, for the 3 different S to get this number. This is what we want. So you would have to do 3 calculations. This was, you have 3 parameters to get. So you would need 3 values of the energy. We try to reduce this number, not to 3, but to 2 and even to 1, without running the problem of extrapolation. Let's go to the details. Let's go to the correlation energy. This is the ratio of the correlation energy for a given X and infinity. So in the limit, you should get this point. And you see the results. This is a bunch of ab initio calculations, very accurate. And you can see that you cannot easily extrapolate with a straight line. This was proposed by Elgacker in the 90s, and we started working on this on the 2000. We have been the second or third on this stuff. But he extrapolated from here. This is fairly good for a straight line, but even this one, extrapolating from this one, does not go to 1. So the question is, how can we start in double zeta and eventually subminimal basis sets, which are inferior to double zeta? Can we reduce this? Well, we proposed this in 2007, and we have been working on that. So above all, to discover this number 6, because if you use explicit correlation approaches, you are in this range. But in this range, the power is not x to the minus 3. We will demonstrate that it should be x to the minus 6. So let's go on. Most of these details are published in a recent review of mine in the annual reviews of physical chemists. And let me just remember that somebody in Japan tested this on 243 molecules, and he said the Varandas Pansini revealed extremely good agreement with Elgacker based on quintuplet 6 to Z basis set. So he tested it on 243 plus 148 molecules, and it seems to work. Well, and it works well for tensorial properties. I cannot review this. For the R3 fork and multi-reference card SCF, it works equally well. So let's move on. How does it compare with CONSHAM DFT? Well, we have recently shown what is written here, underlined. We were dealing with a bunch of molecules, and we say MP2 calculations are found to be less cost effective. So what we do is MP2, pretty cheap, and extrapolate from double zeta and triple zeta to go to infinite zeta and compare with the FT. And they turned out to be even better because the FT has been calibrated for these systems and of the same cost. Okay, so let's go on. We still use the FT. It works pretty well. We are studying the liquid state. We are using a cluster approach. How many molecules of water do you need to resemble water? And it turns out that 15 molecules are enough. Well, this is just coming out on campus letters, but we use the FT. So the FT is a nice theory, but we can do equally good and at the same price using MP2. Well, now, CBS push to the end. This is double zeta, triple zeta, quadruple zeta, and so on. These are the so-called correlated consistent basis sets. This is the forgotten part of basis sets. And what I'm going to show to you is that I put all of them on the same scale, and you may combine one of those with those. This is extremely expensive. This costs about nothing. So when I extrapolate from the two, I may say that I'm pseudo extrapolating from a single basis set because this is the one is the only costly one. It's like putting a gun on the shoulder to get precision on the shot. So I use this just to address the gun. So I classify the basis sets in subminimal, minimal for double zeta, and extended the other ones. So to deal with all of them, we need to re-hierarchize the basis sets. We have done it. What's written over there? And then we even say, can we define optimal basis sets? Instead of double zeta, I can define an optimal double zeta basis set for extrapolation. Yeah, well, I will show you some results later on. Well, this stuff is in a couple of recent papers. So this is what I end up with in the Portuguese colors. We have now the full basis set on the same hierarchy for R3-FOC, for MP2, and for couple clusters. So you can compare the results based on the electron correlation they capture and put them here. And you can use any of them, but you should use these basis sets for couple cluster, these basis sets for MP2, this hierarchy for MP2, this hierarchy for R3-FOC, and it works. Well, an example. This species is, what's the name? Chilean is a popular name. This species has 45 equilibrium geometries. All these structures can be equilibrium geometries of this molecule. And what you have here is a calculation of our results extrapolated from, well, you can see is a mini, is one of the cheap basis sets, and one double zeta. And in dark, you have the accurate couple clusters, which are unbearably expensive. And as you can see, you follow from one minimum to all the others. We follow the right path with a very inexpensive approach. Now, can we define optimal basis sets? You have optimal basis sets here for couple cluster calculations. And what is in red are the errors of our calculations with the double zeta and the triple zeta basis sets. The ones that you have in yellow, which are extremely expensive, much more expensive, we gain a factor of 3 to 5 with respect to the old basis sets. So just to tell you that you just need to change a few parameters in the basis to make them apt to extrapolate to CBS. Yeah, you can find this on JCP in Journal of Chemical Physics, and that's all. So now we have extrapolated along this. CBS is along this line. Along this line, you extrapolate with double zeta and triple zeta, double zeta and quadruple zeta, double zeta and triple zeta, quadruple zeta, and so forth and so forth. Now you say, well, I'm ending up with triangular numbers. why don't I extrapolate also in this way, which I call post-CBS? Not post in going beyond the CBS, but post in the sense of doing CBS and then post-CBS. Well, the errors, this is equivalent to this in 2 dimensions. You extrapolate in this way and then in this way. And the errors that you get in a cheap way with my methods, you can see them here in black compared with the traditional errors. And as you can see, these errors are in kilocalories, so you are in the sub-kilojoule per mole accuracy. And we did this for 130 molecules. Well, this is my conclusion, to conclude that the result should be x to the -6 and then x to the -3. If you put my hierarchical number as a function of the traditional cardinal number, you see a perfect parabolic with the 4 calculations for 4 sets. So we conclude, oh, well, you may say, why is this important? Because people were claiming 3.8, 3.5, 7 point something, and we say, no, it's nothing, not 3, it's 6. Well, we even did a calculation for ethyl methyl ether, which is important in astrophysical stuff, but this is not relevant here. The details are also in PCCP. Well, simple things, but that bother spectroscopists. You see how to calculate the force constants. Well, we just have shown in a recent paper how to extrapolate not energies, but force constants, frequencies. So you can do the whole thing. You see, you can see here the dimer of the water molecule, and we did it with a good accuracy. But you have another important point. Most spectroscopists, what they do a calculation, and they scale the frequencies. And I said, well, can we do what I've done before, avoiding scaling of the force constants? We did it for a benchmark of 15 molecules, in which the people of scaling has done, and we gained a lot. This is what you do by scaling. This is what I get with pure ab initio calculations. For another test set of 4 difficult molecules, large one, instead of, you see, they don't give numbers for this because they are very expensive, but we can get very reasonable numbers for the frequencies. Well, as you can see, we can do it in a cheap way. This is just to be submitted. There's a paper that I'm writing. But you see, can empirical scaling be avoided? Yes, definitely. You don't need to do scaling at all. Well, what comes next? Next comes a problem of planarity. Everybody thinks that benzene is planar, and it is planar. But if you do a pretty good calculation with MP2AVTZ, which is an augmented triple zeta basis set, you find these arrows here. These arrows means that this planar geometry, after you optimize, is not a minimum, is a saddle point. So the question is, should I use this calculation to rationalize the planarity of benzene? No ab initio calculation should be done until the Schrödinger equation can be done exactly, or we are sure that it is exact. So I thought, how can I explain the planarity of a molecule? Well, if you say this is just for benzene, no. Pick up ethylene, you get the same. Pick up acetylene, you get the same. This one, you get the same, and many others. So you cannot trust ab initio calculations. You can trust, but you need to understand them. So, well, what this is about, you see this frequency, this is, it cannot be, I cannot read it, but this is in red. 3 numbers, you see, there is no aromatic 4n+2, you know, pi rule for being planar or not planar. No, it does not work. It works in many cases, it does not work in others. So can we have an alternative explanation? Let's go on. You see, if you pick up this compound, Xe can be carbon, silicium, or germanium. And you say, if you ask about the planarity of benzene, substituted benzene, this is let's say an E element, the others, the black ones, are carbons. You see, this is carbon. This is benzene, planar. Should be planar. P should be planar. But you see, if you go on the substitutions, you see this is non-planar. Why is that? Well, these people, Russian people, came out and explained this with Renateller effect. I know what is Yenteller. Renateller is everything that looks like Yenteller, but is not Yenteller. So it's difficult to understand. But the problem is, if instead of considering C6H6, he considers CHH8, he comes with a different explanation to explain the same thing. Why are all these non-planar, but this is planar? When you replace 4 carbons by 4 siliciums, let's say, or 4 germaniums. Well, so let's go back. I'm not going to talk about linearity, it works in the same way, but not with tetrads of atoms, but with triads of atoms. There is this very simple theorem. Everybody can demonstrate it in a, in a bus ticket. If all tetrads of points in a set are in a plane, they all are on the same plane. Fantastic. If I have a large molecule, if I divide it in 4 atoms piece, if all 4 atom pieces are planar and they overlap in 3 atoms, then the whole set of atoms must be in the same plane. Well, it works beautifully. For this one, you can see even indices, which means the number of this, the number of that, the number of that, the number of that. You have these 3 indices. And then you combine them in a proper way, and you have an index for defining whether the molecule is planar or non-planar. We recover all them without exception. This is on PCCP of this year. If we go to C8H8, it goes exactly in the same way, in the same paper. Now, you may say, what are these tetrads? I call them tiles. It's like making a roof. You just use planar tiles. If they are all planar, you have a good chance that the roof is planar. But if one of them is non-planar, the roof is non-planar. But you have to have rules for building the roof. And this is done. You see, these are the tiles for studying, which I call quasi-molecules or tiles, for building up everything I've shown to you. We have also applied it to anions, and we predict for the first time, this is novel, this absolutely planar anion of 11 atoms. Yeah, this is novel. You see, you have the names of all of them here. That is non-planar. We explained why. Well, we are just going beyond this. We can explain why this is non-planar, coronine is planar, and keculin is planar. And we also explain all of them to be planar. I just submitted this to International Journal of Quantum Mechanics. And this one as well. But this is very nice. These are the so-called trianguline molecules. There's a molecule in which the spin of the molecule varies with the size. The bigger is the molecule, the bigger is the spin. And therefore, this is important in technology, modern technology. Well, and some poor calculations, which I've done as well, as you can see by the numbers, these are the total energies. This is with the mini basis set, with the DFT. And as you can see, this is nice because they look very much the same, but this is planar, this is non-planar. But there is no certainty that it should be planar. I have everything that this circle becomes plain, red, it means non-planarity, danger, if this one. So it can be planar or non-planar. And this brings me to a very important subject in physics, which is called the spontaneous breaking of symmetry. I'm not sure if I'm working on this stuff. But in any case, you can check that this is non-planar because the number of red tiles is small. Well, not only this one, but you can see that this dipole moment is non-zero. This one is essentially 0. Well, but the important thing is the following. Do we need to deal with small tiles? Why don't we use big tiles? And we generalize the concept of tile. We can use this theorem to make bigger tiles and then use the bigger tiles to build the even bigger tiles. And this is what I call the recent, or I'm going to call, generalized quasi-molecule. For example, this is the molecule of coronine. I have already shown that it must be planar with tiles. Therefore, I can use the planarity of this one jointly with the other smaller tiles to build up. That's the way it goes. This is my most recent work. I'm very enthusiastic. Now I'm trying to enter scattering, reactive scattering. And you know, I've been working since my PhD on potential surface. My supervisor and myself, we wrote this book, which I think is the first monography in molecular potential energy functions of the wire. So I've been working on these methods. I'm not going to enter these methods or even shape spline fits. We have done all this stuff. So let me go to the next transparency, just to tell you that you are going to see the potential surface for a triatomic. You have 4 dimensions, 3 dimensions, spatial dimensions, and 1 for the energy. So you need the hyperspace to see what's going on. Well, we have hidden one, like Edwin Abbott. We could see spherical lens in a planar space. And that's what you see. You have the 3 channels on the planar surface, and you can even see a trajectory connected from reactants to products. Okay, this has been done. I published this many years ago in 2000 something. And we even produce codes to generate this potential surface. They are on chemical physics communications, both for 3 atoms and 4 atoms. So I'm not going to talk about potential surface. The topic is well guided, so it's okay. Let's go to quantum reaction dynamics. I use this surface, I do the dynamics, and I do the dynamics. You see, this is the topic of another lecture per se. I'm just going to tell you that we have done this is a quantum reaction code for doing exact quantum reaction dynamics for 3 atom species, and we have used it. We see the dynamics on these hyperspherical diagrams, and just by looking at them, you can see that there is reaction here. You see the spots, bright spots, but you don't have for here. The only difference is that this is the total angular momentum is 0. Here is 20. So you have a centrifugal barrier. So it's not a surprise that you don't find the reactivity. So you do the quantum dynamics calculations, you plot them, and you can immediately see if there was a reactive scattering or not. We have applied just recently for the calculation not only of the scattering on this way, the scattering on that way, and the equilibrium constant. As you can see, this is in recent papers. We have done it. It's just a kind of slogan. We have done it. Impacted topics. Let's go to carbon chemistry at low energies. We need global surfaces. Diatomics are easy. We have done them. We do them with, 2 cents of accuracy of a centimeter minus 1. We can do it. We can do it. This is not a problem. Diatomics are done. Not, don't take me literally on this. I mean, you always find there is intensive work versus extensive, and there is always some intensive work that we have not done, but it's open for other people. But we can do up to the fraction of the centimeter minus 1. Diatomics is another word. You see, carbon-3. Look at the amount of states that you have to consider to do an exact quantum reaction if you want to compare the experiment. Not all eventually, but you need to do a bunch. For example, we have to construct surfaces which show this. This is not a Ian Teller conical intersection, but a silver Ian Teller. We have to do this surface that describe this. And for this is the triplet, and the 3 others that nearly touch here are for singlets. We have done them. The topic is done. They are published in 2019. We have done for C4. There is also a bunch of papers in which we describe these conical intersections. This is important for reaction dynamics. And then we need to go beyond this, Remember that HC3 was one of my tiles, and I had done work before. Constructing a surface in 6 dimensions for HC3 is not a piece of cake. Look how many isomers you have connected by symmetry, and your global surface should not only describe all these minima, which are equivalent by symmetry, some of them, and the dissociation channels. But we have done this in a PCCP. Actually, it was a PCC article in 2019. Well, energetical is also not a piece of cake. You have to cover a range of energies which go from 0 to 700 kilojoules. So you have to have a function. All this is analytical. You can see the analytical form here. You have a 2 by 2 potential matrix, and then you have expansions in 6 dimensions. It's not a piece of cake, but we have done it. As I said, it appeared in this hot topic, and it discovers all these channels in a rigorous manner. Well, we have used this surface, which you see here. We have made use of group symmetry here, you know, on the choice of the polynomials. We applied to the calculation of the rate constant. And this is what some experimentalists believe. This is what some experimentalists believe. And we are somehow in the middle. Look, this is temperature that goes from 50 Kelvin up to 4,000 Kelvin. So we could compare with whatever is available, and we could do fairly well with this potential surface. These are my 2 last transparencies. We have just recently studied this reaction. HSIS, one of my coworkers is here present. And these are, well, these are out. This one is out and this one is in press. But you can explain the dynamics in a very nice way. You see, there was this dialogue with experimentalists, because what I say here is reaction enhanced SES abundance with H2 from tau to tau. We increase this ratio of SiH to H2 from 10 to the minus 10 to 10 to the minus 8. And this is in great agreement with the experiment. Well, and the last one is this one. We just submitted it to JCP, Journal of Chemical Physics. Is on another fascinating molecule, silicium C2, unusual bonding. It's a very nice molecule, because although you have ionic bonds, the passage from one atom from this side to the other side involves very little energy. So it's called polytropic, this molecule. This goes back to Clementi, you know, but this is, as I said, submitted, but we reconciled spectroscopy. We explained the spectroscopy with fractions of a centimeter minus 1. We do the reaction dynamics, and as you can see, this is what we get for high energies. So the question emerges, can we go beyond 3 atoms, beyond 4 atoms? Can we go to 10 atoms? Well, we thought about truncating the many-body expansion at 4 atoms. And as you can see, we get pretty good agreement. That's okay. So what we just use is the singlets for 3 bodies and triplets for 2 and 4 bodies. And it appears to work pretty well. And we got surfaces. You can see a surface for one of them. You know, I have no time to go into details. It's not, they are not relevant. This is published on JAT-PCA 1 or 2 years ago. So take-home message. The Born-Oppenheimer approximation, my colleague Providencia and myself, we made it mass-wise quantifiable. We can say to what percent is the Born-Oppenheimer approximation value. The method that we use in optimal basis sets, it's cost-effective for extrapolation. It can compete with Consham DFT in accuracy and cost. It seems incredible, but you know, when I talk compete is within 1 or a factor of 1 to 3, eventually 3. We can extrapolate quantum mechanics with classical mechanics. The principle is the correspondence principle. In the limit of high quantum numbers, the quantum should reach the classical. Therefore, my idea when I published the first results was, well, if I have quantum results, why don't I use classical trajectories to guide the extrapolation? It seems to work. Well, the two methods that I proposed many years ago, and this one recently, they have been applied to larger and larger molecules. We have codes already for developing these molecules for up to tetratomics. We should do for pentatomics, it's more complicated. So the road ahead is molecular shapes, planarity versus nonlinearity, versus linearity, frequencies. Should we scale them? No, I don't think you should. And potential surface. Well, okay, this is just a triplet potential surface is the surface for the ground triplet of carbon-3, which has been the cover of JPCA. And this is basically what I had to say. I just have to thank my sponsors. Thank you very much. I hope that I was in time.
No, more or less the time, yes, quite well. Your watch works exactly like mine. I don't use watch. Okay, well, since we have 3 speakers today, which is unusual, we will not have questions unless you have some pressing question. Then I will allow you a pressing question, but otherwise, no very pressing questions. I'll get to José Moura, which I think is our speaker number 2, and give him about the same time. You're going to sit here?
I'm going to. Can I use the other here? Yes. And
Okay.
I'll show you my screen.
Welcome, José Moura. I'm sitting there, otherwise I won't see anything. Okay.
So we have to stop the sharing. Go to use my computer. Okay. Ok. Sr. Carlos Salema, muito obrigado por estar a presidir esta sessão. É um grande prazer também. Eu vou começar só a agradecer em português, depois passarei em inglês. Queria cumprimentar todos os que estão presentes, os convidados presentes, aos que estão online. Eu sou um grande adepto no presencial, fiquei muito cansado do Zoom e é com grande prazer que estou aqui online e espero que no futuro nós voltaremos a este convívio mais curto, embora o online tenha vantagem daqueles que não podem estar presentes também participam connosco nestas sessões. So I go back to English. Thank you very much. This is a very challenging session with 3 speakers. Probably we have very different topics to talk about, but what I'm going to show you is a little bit another side of me. Since I am professor of chemistry and bioinorganic chemistry, I've been the pleasure to address here several times problems about biomolecules, metals, transition metals, and spectroscopy and biological cycles. And sometimes I have been talking here about another of my passions, that is the library of FCT, which I am director, where we do a work there to provide a library that is beyond the books, which means that the modern library that offers not only all the work as a library, but also the cultural interface, which I've been also presented here in the Academy. And today I'm going to show an edition of the library that is FABLab, that is digital fabrication. So the topic is going to be very simple, but I'll be very glad to share with you several instruments that are available to everybody, not only the scientific community, but also the community in general. And so what we're going to talk is about the FCT FABLab, digital fabrication, and also how we can get digital fluency. So that's the topic I'll going to address. So this is the most crowded slide I have, but just to tell you that the fabrication laboratory FABLab is essentially a workspace. It's a workspace that offers different capabilities to the scientific and local community. So there are here two catchy names, that is do it yourself and making almost everything. These are these two catchy things that tells you or challenge people to use the space to produce something with different materials and different assistive control machines. The FABLab opened in the campus of the FCT in 2016, so it was 5 years ago, now on the 6 years going. And the FABLab was also approved by an international organization called the Fab Academy, who Professor Neil Gershenfeld from MIT was the founder of this idea. And also he writes in many articles that FABLabs is about turning ideas into reality. So make your dreams come true. So that's the idea. What is the mission of FABLab? Essentially is to promote access and facilitate the access a wide range of sources and provide users with modern and collaborative environments. So we'd like to have people to find a place where they could work in a very pleasant situation. And we would try to tackle very large audience, not only the scientific community on the campus, the researchers, professors, the teachers, but also students. And also we always catch an eye to the community, the general community. And this community can be very simple as the ones that are surrounding us, or it can be the schools that also around the campus. And we want to provide people with knowledge about the technology they are using. Actually, the FCT FABLab is a service of the library. And a usually question is why a library is a fabrication lab. Essentially because libraries, as you know, they have been all the time since ages on the forefront providers of access of new technologies. Don't remember writing was one of the main things in the beginning. Libraries are spaces where there is a tradition of collaboration. They are very democratic places, and they are accessible to everybody, everyone. And also digital fabrication is now recognized as a powerful tool for teaching, and remember, for STEAM, not STEM, but STEAM, because it's science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and arts. So it is providing all this environment. So essentially, if you want to have a fab lab, a fabrication lab, you must have main 5 pillars, the 5 pillars. This is the way to get recognized internationally to have such a space. You should have 3D printing, laser cutting, CNC, electronics, and vinyl cutting. Sometimes you think vinyl, is it very used? Tell you, in the last year and a half, the Fab Lab is using vinyl cutting in COVID times, just to do arrows, numbers, signals to everybody, to spaces and so on. So it was one of the main activities, and we were really providing a very useful tool to the community. So these are the pillars, but there are other things we have. And what can we do with this? We can do a lot of things with the Fab Lab. Actually, there's examples on your right-hand side. From medical and dental applications, aerospace, automotive, jewelry, education, art and design, a lot of things. I'm going to get some information about the applications we can have, but also the people we attract is a very large public, really. We have the academics, the schools, as I told you, artists want to come to this space, medical people are very, very interested, designers, creatives, entrepreneurs, and not last of them, general public and the community. So this is a general view of part of the Fab Lab. We recover all spaces in the campus. We make it attractive. There's a good architect for sure on backwards. It looks like a little bit like a metro station, maybe, whatever you want to call, with a zinc roof, but that the colors are also to attract public and feel comfortable. On the other side, this is Alpha Fit. On the other side, we have training rooms and meeting rooms. And also, from the beginning, we had immediately to the MIT consortium, which every year about 70 FABLabs worldwide get together. And for 16 weeks, the students are learning how to use the tools of a FABLab. By the end, they have a project and they became with a diploma. The diploma is called a FAB Master Diploma. They have large employability. And in our case, we have a very special situation because we managed to have not only diploma from the FAB Academy, but also we convinced the Scientific Council to get also certification of these specialized courses. People get 16 SCTS, so it's useful for pursuing the studies. So it's a large advantage to do this. This is time consuming, large of dedication, and it's not cheap. Is the thing, but you can do it, and if you do it, you get a very large open facilities for employee. Also, we have been a little crowded, but just with the right part. We are doing an effort with the Scientific Council and some departments to become this as a doctoral PhD program. So we want the literacy chemists, we want that people will do a master and that can do a PhD on these topics of digital fabrication. We spend a lot of time to teach people is one of the things. So workshops are very important. They run all the way around. Sometimes they have different levels. For instance, there's an example there of Arduino with electronics, and they can do basic or advanced. 3D printing can be basic and advanced. So they are offered. Generally, they are free. So they are announced. Every month we have 4 running. And these workshops really, I tell you, save our life and also communication with our public during different pandemic times. So we could keep this program running. More than 80 workshops were done in 1 year and a half. And we have, and as we are the same situation here, people from all over the country could access, even abroad, they could access to the workshops because we are now also involved with the European network. And also we have a crowd that, especially in Belgium and France, they are also participating. In Holland, they are participating in these workshops. We also do workshops tailor-made, so which means if there is a special department that want to have some topic specially designed, we can do especially for them. We also try to attract during the summer young community, and most of the time we do this online. And what we do is just we give tutorials, we teach people how to use a few technologies. They receive by email the parts, and so after that they assemble everything, and then they talk with the tutorials and they produce something. This was a sensor for temperature and humidity and so on. So, but they can also do this. Is another way to attract people. And the young people are very enthusiastic for doing these things. We are involved in European projects. This is one of them. It's called the national project that is 3D printing supported service for innovative citizens, very much dedicated to a program for librarians. So this is a program that's really devoted for teaching 3D printing, so they are prepared to serve the community. This is one thing. We approach schools. We go, it's called the Fabulous Project. This is, we always have these names, but they must be catchy to attract the young students and the young populations. But what we do is workshops for groups and professors, and then what we'd like very much to challenge the study on the idea of you can do almost everything. It's always the idea, make people feel power, and they can produce and solve problems all alone or with a group. That's the idea. So it's learn, do, and share. Recently, we got involved with medical people and biomedicine in our campus, and we have been, this program is evolved, it's called Enable. is also is several labs all over the world that are using projects and ideas to produce prostheses. In this case, it's just for kids, and we are working with medical people and the biomedics. This is another situation. Actually, some of them are very attractive nowadays with colors and so on. So a young fellow that has problems, they will feel more comfortable and probably happy with some colors and something they can see. And a part of that, we promote different initiatives. We have the Fab Talks. The Fab Talks go by seasons. Our Fab Talks for all seasons. There's a spring one, a summer one. We find a very well recognized person in the world that can give us lectures on topics. We have these Free Fridays, which is also a way nobody pays and can use the space. We have a recycling corner. People go there. They can leave a toaster or something. Someone will dismantle and we'll do something with it. And then we try to attract more scientific problems. For instance, we even, our Fab Master, that is Philippe Sylvestre, is building himself 3D plotters for specialized applications. We can produce structures for material science, these auxetic structures that can be compressed and span. So we can do it with 3D. This is a molecule of graphene, and we can do different molecules. With a drone, we can take an image from a square and do something for architects. We can do a maquette, for instance, possible with 3D. We can do the orbitals if we want for chemists. We have here a very fancy cofactor for molybdenum containing enzyme, which I've been talking a long time ago. Now we have there this spider, looks like a spider. The big ball in the middle is molybdenum. So we can also do this from crystallographic data. And there's a whole world of molecules you could do by 3D plotting that can be interest of different departments, biological science, chemistry, environment, and so on, medicine, and so on. First, I took this example. This is not our work, but it was very interesting. In Brazil, there was a master program where someone tried to do a cell, a whole cell. So they produced the organelles, the sarcoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, the chloroplast, mitochondria, the nucleus of the cell, and everything was done by 3D CNCs, and they could do molding, and they could produce a model for a cell, which for teaching purpose is very valuable. And they are kind of these things, supports for tubes or a little model, very simple model for RNA or a chromosome. I think it's very easy to do. Things for biology, for science, for natural science. And this, one of the things that it was a surprise, we start to attract artists. Artists came to the Fab Lab to do this, all this kind of offering of instruments. For these artists are using 3D plotting and CNCs to produce engraving. And what they do, instead of doing in wood engraving by hand, they do that with a CNC, or they produce a mold in 3D plotting, and they produce beautiful printings. And this was one of the exhibitions we had in the library, and is going around. Some of them mimic very much the Japanese engraving, the very traditional engraving from Japanese art, which they also reproduce. And for instance, another example, we work in collaboration with the museum from the Instituto de Higiene Cine Tropical. Probably those that have been going around the museum, they have these ads coming from colonies with very strange diseases in faces and so on. And they are on exposure, but if you want to make the museum inclusive, you can, the ones that cannot see would like to touch. And so we have done models by 3D plotting. We have a 3D scanner. We can do a model of the head, and now we have a small model there. And people that cannot see have inclusivity. They can touch, they can see what is the piece, and so on. So it was even we write an article with them. We participate with a lot of things. The Fab Lab goes to several situations, the Night of Researchers, even the cycling tour of Portugal. We have been also participating, the open labs, and also this is a challenge program that is going on the campus. We go very directly to meetings for librarians, because we want them to be aware of all these facilities. And also we want to give a different image for a modern library. So we go there with all these ideas. And actually we even promote this national meeting of different FABLabs in Portugal, which we have promoted one of the meetings. We belong to this association. And last August, we even participate in Canada. I didn't go there, I was online, but there was an international meeting where we show all the facilities about fabrication, digital fabrication and higher education, which is one of the things we are very interested. We are going, promoting ourselves to be involved, not only just workshops, which are very important, but we'd like to have them involved in postdoctoral programs, doctoral programs, and this becomes a curriculum plan for mechanical departments, electronic departments, and civil engineering departments. They can be involved with this curriculum for doctoral programs. So if I can just show you small movies, they are very short, they're 1 minute at the end. Very high accuracy for 3D printing now, this one. So a part of that, if I can go, how do I get out of here? So just to finish, I want to show you, sometimes we can advantage of the leftovers we have. And oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. It's just we can sometimes take advantage of the leftovers we have. First, we have asked an artist, she make a beautiful screen. What comes out from CNC is a beautiful screen, or you can even use the rolls from filaments from 3D plotters to decorate the room. And in resume, and as a conclusion, I think we are addressing different publics. We give support to students in several academic works. We have a crowd of people from May to June and have to finish master programs. They are producing a lot of stuff. We give support to researchers in different situations. We work in partnership with the FCT departments. Now we are trying to be more and more involved in biomedicine. The FAB Academy node is an important aspect in our participation internationally, and we participate in training at high level. In medical stuff also, and we are open to the community. And how we could get there, I have to thank because to get this was step by step. And what was very fortunate for us is that 6 libraries in Portugal get involved in a program called the American Corners. They are participated by the American Embassy, and they all start up with the support from them. We went to a stage, we have a design and innovation lab, and this was the seeding that after expand to the FABLab, and in 2019 we really enlarged the space. We are now quite comfortable, but all of this will not be possible without support of the American Corners. These are the people that are really involved with me, Ana Pereira, Ana Roxo, and Rosário Duarte. They are mostly librarians, but they are very, very occupied with these programs. And Felipe Silvestre is really the Fab Master. He's really the owner of the space. He really runs all the show. And just to finish, I would like to share with you, since the last year we had 15 years of library, 5 years of FabLab, and 10 years of American Corner. It was a special 2021. I'll share you a very short movie, very simple, but very fresh, and was a very good way to commemorate and be more involved with our young students. 1 minute. So. Inside the library. After the base was done in laser cut, so now they are peeling off what they cut with laser cut on the spread of sheet. The campus de Caparica. Okay, this was they were writing on the piece of paper. So I hope this challenge I proposed myself could be useful, and that was just a different way to look to facilities we have, and sometimes they are not well known, and people can really do so many things, from practical stuff to more elaborated things, and we try to, I think we convinced our community on the campus. The community around special schools are coming to us very easily, and if you want to spread the word, would be very nice, and come to see us. Probably I did exceed my time, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed. I can tell you one thing. Fascinating. Your proposal. Sure. I can tell you that in my research group, I have a couple of guys that will kill just to get inside your FabLab. As simple as that. They will kill for it because they
as you know, it's very difficult to have a technician that can do some nice little things.
Almost anything.
Yeah. The problem is you don't have a technician to do that. So if you can do that by programming and do some three-dimensional, they will do it for sure. They really love to do that. Thank you very much.
I didn't mention that it's very easy using this FABLab to make a booking, a reservation of time for a certain machine, and then go again. In general, the prices are very low because what they are doing is the materials they are using, and the rest is on us.
Sure, exactly. So it was really very useful, at least for me. Yeah, please.
Me too, I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated since I saw the first 3D printing machine. I was involved in a petition about the bottom surface that they produced full equations from polynomials and making beautiful surface. If you have the technique of those to compare with physical dimensionalization, and in fact, you were able to print first for the first time 25 years after the improved theorem, all the shapes of the cubic surface that you can see there. And it's a multiplication situation together, very nice. This is already some years ago. The point is, from the technical point of view, technological point of view, for engineering, for architecture, for arts, I understand this is fascinating. This is very, very important. There are two questions that I would like to make. First is because maybe I don't understand what is the relevance of the FabLab for libraries. What can a librarian do with, because libraries is for books or for digital objects that you can see in computers. So what are objects that the FabLab can provide to a library? This is my first question. My second question maybe is a tricky one. Is, can you give me an example of a scientific concept or a scientific fact that you can somehow learn by giving the student something to do with FabLab? How can you learn some scientific concept, for instance? I don't mean technological. Of course, technologically this is very important, very useful, but from scientific understanding, for scientific concept, what can you get from a FabLab?
Sure. You asked me two questions, and I'm going to answer to three ones. The first one is I really appreciate your comment, the first comment, because it's very nice to come here. I know now I'm going to the Faculty of Science because, and there is several places that are doing things that we don't know, really. And sometimes it's useful, this kind of exchange of information. No, but you have plotted those things, which are examples that are another use of these things, that even we can provide students with more ideas. The two ones are tricky questions, and sometimes it's difficult to convince people why we have a FabLab in a library. First of all, nowadays libraries, we cannot look at libraries as shelves with books or computers that you have the PDF information on the distance of your finger. So it's going on. It's what's going on in the library. People go, some special students go to the shelf, they look for books. Generally, I think the first year, the students are the ones that look for more the basic books. They want to have the physics, the mathematics, the chemistry, and so on that basic books they go and they use. But if you go to more sophisticated or specified information, they go to the databases. And so one of the functions of the library, I'm not running out of the question, I'll go back to your what you asked, but the role of a library nowadays sometimes is a little joking, but what the student expect for a library? Expect to have a nice place to sit, comfortable with light. They want to have a beautiful Wi-Fi. They want to have access to the net, and don't to have plugs to plug your computers. For sure, they want to have electricity everywhere. And having say that, what they expect for us is training. what we have to do in a library is train people in many, many aspects. So I didn't talk about that, but we have a huge training program of things like how to write a scientific paper, how to go to interview, what is ethics, what is pledge, which database they should use, how they do a survey, how they do EndNote, Mendeley, all these things, which are tools. And we can provide also with other tools, because a modern library has to provide other things. For instance, I give you an example. In Helsinki, he opened 2 years ago a beautiful library, one of those things in wood, you know, to use this thing, lots of space. You know what they have in the library? Sewing machines. Sewing machines, because they have a whole community. It's also maybe, okay. They have a huge place with pillows. It's beautiful. People sit in pillows around, and because they have immigrants, they have a lot of people that come abroad, and they go to the library, and they go to the library to use all the swinging machines or the, I don't know, that to needle things, but also they go and see books about pediatrics. They see books about cooking, you know. So I think that libraries must have this aspect of entangling the community, and this. Not a joke, I say, sometimes I say, one day I see guys doing wedding cards, but the other day I see a beautiful molecule, and they say a challenge. For example, I could use that green molecule there, material science. They want to prove the elasticity, how they compress, how they expand, and so on. They took a lot of information doing these models in different situations, different compressions, and so on. If an architect can do, as I told you, they can do a maquette very easily. For instance, with this molecule, I'm showing molybdenum to pterins with sulfur and so on. We can study by plotting this molecule, the different conformational states that the molecule can get, and that could relate with theoretical calculations, for instance, for the conformation. QQM or DFT doesn't go, but QQM, and so we work on these aspects with Maria João Ramos on Porto and doing these things. So there's a relation between the structure and the energy, so we can do this kind of things. Now it's on demand. It's really on the imagination, what people want to use. But so that was the last question. Was this? So what can they gain? What can they gain more than just playing? I think this is your question.
Concept.
Yeah.
You can test and understand, but just.
Yeah, I know. It's very much dependent on the user. For instance, I'm interested in molecular docking, a molecule A that docks with a molecule B. And this is a phenomenon of surface recognition. So you can have a surface, it's not the key and unlock, it's not the same as enzymes, but it's a surface that really can recognize another surface. And is maybe electrostatic, the interaction could be hydrophobic, could be different aspects. We can do models to test how these molecules can interact. So this is a possibility if we have the 3D structures of these proteins. But I think it depends a lot of the one that goes there.
Thank you very much. Sorry, José Francisco, you are so interested as I am. But we also keep time, which is terrible. You really teased us by, we want to go there now. That's really the idea. That's not the point today. Well,
indeed.
Just to tell our audience that here we have a very small percentage of our audience. Now, 30 more people which are not here. This is the difference nowadays. They're having everything by Zoom. Please, Professor, come in. Okay, now we have our last speaker today. This is an unusual session of 3 speakers, and we have Professor Bing Joe Hwang. I hope anything similar to your name. I'm sorry, but to read your name, it's not easy. And he will be speaking to us about the interfacial phenomenal lithium metal barriers. Okay, thank you very much. The floor is yours. And I'm going to sit again there.
Okay, it's my great honor and pleasure to come back Academy of Science discipline. It's interesting, actually. The topic today is need a space transformation from computation to education, and probably more applied science in my talk. And also you need a space transformation from Portugal to Taiwan. I'm from Taiwan. So it's really my pleasure and honor. So the topic I'm going to present today is interfacial phenomena of metal battery. In my group, mainly focus on electrochemistry application, especially in energy storage and combustion reaction. Today, I mainly would focus on this battery work within the time frame. So, of course, probably everyone knows the importance of the carbon emission. So this is a roadmap reported by IEA at 2021. Of course, it's the milestone for policy, infrastructure, and technology roadmap. So I don't want to go into the detail, but the main this roadmap is the, no matter which country, the percentage of electricity would keep increasing, and also the percentage of electricity from renewable energy, especially from the solar and the windmill, keep increasing. And especially after 2030 to 2050, we need to introduce hydrogen. Hydrogen will play important role in this net zero emission roadmap. If we look at the Taiwan situation, the current power demand is around the peak power demand around 44 gigawatt. By 2025, we plan to install like a 27 gigawatt. But in the future, because this is only the install power, which probably we can only get in reality, probably only get like 20%. So eventually, if we want to increase our green energy to meet this net zero emission roadmap, we probably need to get green energy much higher than 44 gigawatt. That means sometimes you actually produce much more than you need. So we need lots of technology or from different sectors in order to meet this requirement. So this is our government, Taiwan also performed to this net zero emission commitment by 2050. Of course, many countries already did. And as I mentioned, once the renewable energy increase, especially like in Taiwan, if you increase, Taiwan is an isolated island. So if this renewable energy increase, but this renewable energy is intermittent, is unstable. So at this supply end, will be very unstable. But also the electric vehicle, the percentage of electric vehicle would also gradually increase. And this the power need actually can be much higher than 44 gigawatt in Taiwan. So if the I normally calculate if the electric vehicle in Taiwan is higher than 30%, then the peak, if everyone plug in the car want to charge the car, then it's higher than 44 gigawatt. So that is also cost at the consumer end is very unstable. So we the power pattern actually is hard to predict it, or it's very dynamic. So we need a energy, good energy storage, or no matter its performance or the cost or sustainability, we need to consider. So probably everyone now in electric vehicle or in energy storage, electrochemical energy storage device, mainly is based on the lithium-ion battery. Lithium-ion battery can provide high energy density. Unfortunately, this lithium-ion battery, the energy density of lithium-ion battery is almost reached the top, and also most of the elements like lithium, nickel, cobalt, actually not natural abundant, so it's not really sustainable. If you want to increase, no matter in energy storage or electric vehicle, that would be a disaster. So we don't believe only by this lithium-ion battery can meet all the requirements in the future. Of course, this lithium battery still can apply in a high-end application or high-value application. We need to develop other, either is high energy, even high energy density, or with like a solid electrolyte, so we don't conquer any fire or explosion issue. And also we need to consider other metal battery, so that which natural abundance, so we can make sure this sustainability and also the cost. However, there are on this metal battery, most of metal batteries lower reduction potential, so those metals are very reactive. So in electrolyte, actually they are this if this is metal, this metal actually very reactive would react with electrolyte, no matter it's liquid or solid electrolyte. And you want to use this metal battery, one big issue is the deposition and stripping would be a big issue. Normally, if a metal deposition, you will consider it's very smooth, and also the efficiency will be very high. Unfortunately, in this reactive metal, it's not. In reactive metal, this metal always react with electrolyte, and also would this morphology evolution would very ununiform, or even the dendrite formation. So there are the chemistry is much more complicated than traditional metal deposition. And even worse is in battery, want to do a rechargeable battery. So not only deposition, you need to also stripping it back. So this stripping also a big issue that I will show some slide to share with you. But in lithium-ion battery, if you are familiar, the current state of art would be still at this lithium-ion battery on like this cylindrical cell with a cathode and a graphite. The energy density around 200 to 250 per kilogram. Recently, of course, some of the silicon graphite composite was introduced. So with the higher, a little bit higher energy density compared to graphite. So you can increase the energy density a little bit. But as I mentioned, this lithium battery would reach the roof, 300 watt per kilogram would be not easy to almost no space to further increase this energy density. So people may think if you can make a thin metal, then you get more space to the cathode, so you can get the energy density even higher to 400 to 500. So, but if you want to deal with this thin lithium metal, it's very reactive. So even the fabrication is not easy, and also you also need to conquer the safety concern. So in the past few years, actually, we mainly work on this anode-free lithium metal battery or other anode-free metal battery. But
Por favor,
you may
desliguem
think,
os
how come
vossos
a battery
microfones.
without an anode? How come it can operate? Fortunately, actually, most of the cathode with rich lithium ion. So if this is as a prepared state, you don't have any anode in the battery. But once you charge it, the lithium ion would go from cathode side to the anode side and deposit at the anode side. So then you become a battery, a thin battery. So that's the idea. So fabrication is much easier because you don't conquer any anode issue, and you also don't conquer any safety concern. Then you can do the discharging. But challenge is the same as a lithium metal. It's very challenging because during the cycling, actually, metal may consume. So, so that chemistry need lots of effort. So in the past, actually, we developed different tool, different model, or to understand this interfacial phenomena. So what is the irreversible phenomena inside? So because if we understand, then we can try to resolve this issue, so that we hope we can deposit the thin film and completely strip back. So then we have a long cycle life of the battery. But I won't go into today. I just want to show some. We use imaging technique to understand this phenomena. I would like to show with you. So like this is the plating. This is the metal plating. This and also later is stripping. So like this, this lithium metal. This is a copper surface. So originally, if you look at this surface, it's very smooth. But once you do the plating, so the plating would dissolve from this side and deposit on the copper surface. So you see, even at the beginning, it's quite smooth, but actually the growth of this is very ununiform. So just because the inhomogeneity of the lithium surface or the copper surface. So that is quite challenging. How can get a very smooth lithium, or even we can, if you keep close, this lithium would cause this short circuit happen. If this short circuit, of course, if in a real battery, explosion would happen. But this is only in a lithium and copper cell, so it won't, if explosion is not get fire. So, but if you look at this, actually they still have resistance. So means actually it look like it's a direct contact. Actually, it's not. In between, they have a insulation layer in between. So stop this. So make a resistance between once the current goes through. So within this period, if even the current, because it's short circuit, so even current pass through, the morphology doesn't change because that is a short circuit already. But once you can do the stripping. So in this region, you still didn't see the stripping phenomena, but then you can do the stripping. So if you look at carefully, the surface of this in original is very smooth, but now it's very rough, and the growth also very rough. And you can see the growth of the lesions like a dendrite. That would be, if we in real battery, that would be disaster. Yeah. So that is very challenging how we can resolve this issue. And we also use this in situ OM study. You can look at the growth of this lesion. And this is the after stripping. So if after stripping, you can see the color of the lesion change. And gradually you will see lots of, supposedly this deposition stripping, suppose the film should be the same. If the stripping can be, efficiency can be 100%, suppose all the lesion will go back because the other electrodes on this side, I didn't show that. So, but if you can gradually see this thickness of the lesion.
Excuse me, what are dimensions? What is the?
This is a 50 micron. But 50 micron, okay. Yeah, 50 micron. Yeah, here. So this is the scale part here. Yeah. Okay, so you can see it's after cycle and the thickness of the lesion is increasing. So this lesion actually it become a dead lesion. So it's not contact anymore, but it's pushing up. So if in a real cell, because the distance is constant, once this thickness increase, then short circuit will happen. So that is very challenging. But if you look carefully, actually all the growth is from the bottom. On the top is like a dead soldier on the front. So it's keep the staking would keep increase. So is that it's very interesting phenomena. This is in a commercial electrolyte. So how we can use a new electrolyte and avoid this phenomena. So we also develop a synchrotron base. This resolution will be along micron range. So this is the carbon surface. So then you can see the lesion growth by X-ray microscopy. So normally it's not easy because lesion scattering is very low. So by the this cell design, we are able to observe this lesion growth. This is during the stripping process. You can see the stripping of the lesion. Then at the end of the stripping, you can see still something left on the surface. It's like a dead lesion, or in the battery we call SCI format, solid state interface. So I didn't show the cycling data. If you look at the cycling data, it's similar in the OM study. If you do the second cycle, actually, this is the dead lesion will be on the front, so it would keep increasing. That is very challenging. And also, if you look at the growth, the vertical dilation is much higher than lateral dilation. That which is not we want. We want a lateral dilation much higher than the vertical dilation. But if we can use any approach, or we can use any approach to make this growth more even. So we have a different protocol that as I present, I want like in the, as I present in the image in observation. This is the lesion, and after this after growth, after plating and after stripping, actually you have some adhesion already left there. It's not because on the surface will form a solid electrolyte interface which is not electronic conductive. So that would become isolate, not active anymore. Even it's a lesion, but it's not active anymore. So you cannot use this lesion. This we call a state lesion. So by this protocol or by the traditional lesion battery protocol, in this protocol, we manually can extract the information at the cathode side because we put the abundance of lesion. So the limiting electrode is at cathode side, so we can also only learn the property of the cathode. But if you have a short circuit, that of course the fading of the even the cathode fading would also very serious. And in the unfree lithium metal battery that as I mentioned, we actually based on this protocol we can extract all the irreversible phenomena. I won't go into the detail, but based on this protocol we can get the cathode irreversible phenomena and also the anode irreversible phenomena. So once we understand, or we can quantitatively understand all the irreversible phenomena, then we can propose some approach to resolve this issue. This is we only control in anode free. Actually, we don't have any at beginning. We don't have any lesion. But then we can intentionally grow some lesion. Of course, we provide some lesion, and you can increase this cycle life a little bit. So if you have more lesion as a half cell, then you can get better cycle life. But if it less lesion, because quickly be consumed, so that you will cause the degradation of the cell quickly. Anyway, we based on those protocol, we can extract the irreversible interfacial phenomena. So that is very important foundation for us. Then we can create some idea like here we just introduce SIBR. So as a nucleation site, so we can facilitate the lesion growth on this substrate. Then we can grow more dense lesion compared to one without modification. Because if you can grow more smooth, then you don't have this dendrite or dead lesion formation, so that you can get a more dense lesion. So the battery cycle life can be improved. Of course, in this anode free, we still need a lot of effort to improve the cycle life. And with this anode free protocol, we can also develop electrolyte, especially because in this anode free we can get the we can evaluate the performance of electrolyte within a very short period of time, because it's the irreversible phenomena is very harsh. So it's, the battery almost always would fade quickly. So by this although it's like an evil, but it's also an advantage. So it's as a key we can develop. Like we also use this as a key to develop a non-flammable electrolyte compared to the traditional liquid electrolyte. So we use this non-flammable electrolyte. Even if you have short circuit, it's not the burnout. The fire will not take place. So by this we can also develop electrolyte, and also to enhance the growth of the lesion. So this is probably on the listing topic. And another mention, if based on listing, we can only afford those high value application, but we need to develop more sustainable battery, like based on this gene manganese oxide or gene based battery. But you know, the gene manganese oxide is originally is a primary battery, so you cannot do the cycling. But we actually able to make it become rechargeable battery. So we were develop in this battery. Main issue is also the gene growth and the shaping. So that also an important issue. So we similarly we also from the electrolyte we also in the battery, actually, we can change the solution structure of the electrolyte. Like this is a dilute electrolyte. So with a lot of free water inside, but if we can increase the concentration of the salt, like this is 4 molar gene salt and 2 molar lysine salt. So with this, we don't have any free water in this electrolyte. And in this electrolyte, then you can cross a very dense solid electrolyte, this precipitation layer on the surface, because this precipitation layer mainly is from the decomposition of the salt. And this is mainly in dilute electrolyte, mainly from the decomposition of water. So that precipitation layer is not dense enough. I don't show, I won't explain the detail. So similarly, then we can do this in situ TSM. This is in a dilute electrolyte. This is in a concentrated electrolyte. You can see this is we capture the image from the dilute electrolyte. This at the concentrated electrolyte. But you can see that it's very different actually. So this in a dilute electrolyte. If you see in the concentrate, you have very solid front end. This growth is very dense. But in the dilute electrolyte, it's very loose. So because the precipitation film is not dense enough to protect the gene from the electrolyte decomposition. So that you can learn from this in situ image. So that can increase this efficiency as well. So of course we also developed this in situ SRD to study this this precipitation film. This is a spatial design, because by this way, normally if you this is the couple, this is the gene. On the gene side, we draw a hole so the X-ray beam can go through. And from the gene deposition here, we can see of course, we can see the peak of the gene. But the main idea, we want to see only the precipitation film. So once we strip back, suppose all the gene will back, but the precipitation film is left there. So then we can see the precipitation film. So by this way, you can see in the dilute electrolyte, this precipitation film keep growing. So during the stripping is increased, precipitation film is increased a lot. But in the dense concentrated electrolyte, it won't increase. So it means this precipitation film is very dense. So that we can assemble this dual ion gene battery. This with the gene and lithium ion phosphate. So this is the dual ion. So in this side actually is lithium ion integration. This side is the gene protein. So we can make quite good cycle life, higher than 300 cycle in this aqueous electrolyte. Because if we can use aqueous, it's of course it's more sustainable. So with that, of course, it's still at the very beginning. It's very challenge topic or deal with this reactive metal. So there are many complex chemistry, especially the morphology evolution of the reactive metal deposition stripping. And as I mentioned, this dendrite or the interfacial reaction or this solid electrolyte interface or short circuit mechanism. Especially in the future, today I only present the liquid. In the future, we want to extend to the solid state battery. The phenomena may be also different. So with that, I also would like to acknowledge the financial support from the MOST and also the facility support from the National Centers on Radiation Research Center. And of course, I also get support from this Alexander Fongpo Foundation. So for my this visit, also thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, you have been telling us about a very important problem here in our country. The problem is exactly the same. We have plenty of sun and wind, but they come at irregular rates. And your demand is steady, or tends to be steady. It doesn't like ups and downs. It tends to be steady. So you have to do something about it.
Yes.
And of course, batteries will be nice. Currently, the best thing I know of is water. Just pull it up and down.
Yes.
But it's not so easy to do it. Okay. Any questions? José Francisco, by all means.
Please.
Well, I thank you very much. It was fascinating to see that experiment with its fingers is at really electronic microscope, I presume, wasn't it? Yeah. So my question is, because it was really a free boundary advancing in the liquid. As a mathematician, I am asking you, did you try to make any mathematical modeling of that? I'm trying to see using the equations of the electrochemistry, trying to do some numerical simulations, try to control the phenomena?
I will only try a model to describe the first deposition, but not the cycling. The cycling, we haven't do any, I no idea how to do it. If you have any idea, please, then I would very happy.
It's very naive idea just to use this, electrochemical equations, electromagnetism together potential, with some fluid motion. I presume that was fluid, wasn't it? It was in the fluid,
yes, in the liquid.
In liquid. So, these are, there exist mathematical models for, similar phenomena that may be with different materials, of course. And since I'm working in free boundary problems, I'm not a numericist, I'm just a theoretical mathematician, but I've seen several models of free boundary problems trying to model this fingering. Of course, there are instabilities that are very complicated to calculate. But there is a very simple, much simpler than this one, certainly, is the electrochemical matching problem. And that reminds me, but this is something that you know, because electrochemical matching. So this is a technical procedure, and this being mathematically modeled, but it's much simpler, I presume.
Yeah, we actually also have developed a model, but the issue is the intrinsic inhomogeneity of the distinct surface or couple. You can put that as your boundary. Of course, you can get an inhomogeneous current distribution. So the deposition will be different. That is one topic. Another is this solid electrolyte interface. I didn't go into detail. This is around like a 20 nanometer, but it's very inhomogeneous. It's in composite of inorganic and organic, and it's not only the lateral distribution, also vertical distribution. That is hard to implement in the model. In the model, of course, we can develop, but how can I know at this occasion, this composition at a different location? That is our typical.
I will guess that will be related to the curvature of
Yeah.
the, I mean, when you make cusps or when you can have this curvature, that will increase the speed, because the speed is somehow proportional to the mean curvature of the surface, probably. I don't know. I guess that could be one way to model is try to see how these lines, I mean, this interface evolves, and this is also related to the geometry, I presume, and of course the different materials that are involved. But of course, I know nothing about this. Just wondering that maybe it should be very nice to have a mathematical model of this. As a mathematician, I like to see if it's possible. I don't know.
Yes, yeah, you probably right. If we can use different geometry then to do this study, that may provide very useful information. Yeah, but I haven't seen any work yet. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, José Moura and Armando. José Moura, you have the first question. Armando, atrás de ti também. Armando, atrás de ti está o Zé. Quer falar também?
Well, thank you, Bing Joe, for very nice, very interesting talk. Yeah, and it's on the field of interfacial electrochemistry, and of course, these phenomena are quite complicated and very complex to study, even to model them. Yeah. So when we have, of course, an homogeneous reaction going on in solution, yeah, we have methods, very well-known methods to follow kinetics and also to study mechanisms or so. But in this case, it's an interfacial phenomenon, yes, and an interfacial reaction going on. The models are more complicated. Well, and in fact, to learn about the essence, about really to fully understand what is going on is more complex. Yeah. But of course, it is worthwhile, and we should start probably with models. Yeah, that is when we have a difficult system to study. Of course, the use of models. Yeah, of course, that's a very good way to start with that. Yeah. So, but my point here is this: I understand the difficulties. These great difficulties arising from the metal deposition that you don't want, and then you have to strip it out in order to recover the properties of your cell or so. But in terms of future, what is your idea about this type of anode-free batteries? Yeah. Because of course, we like also go into catalysis, yeah, not necessarily electrocatalysis, but chemical catalysis. Yeah, we have a catalyst, and very often catalyst is based on a metal. But then, if you can have a catalytic system, metal-free, so you are gaining something in terms of green chemistry or green or sustainable catalysis or so. So now you are saying that you can really develop batteries without an anode, without anode-free, and so what else can you do with that? That's really amazing. Yeah, and what do you think is the future of these batteries? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so that is it is my interest. So because it's very challenging actually. The ones that I didn't explain.
Ouvir uma conferência, desculpem lá.
Like this, at this right corner, this is actually the.
Eu trabalho na parte de energia, soberano de lítio. Desculpem lá, é uma coisa.
In this is actually, but in the battery, like if you get efficiency, recovery efficiency is like 99%. So if you get the efficiency, deposition should be 99%. Actually, your battery can only run like 100 cycles. But we hope your battery will be like 1,000 or even more. So 1,000 means you need a 99.9%. So it's very difficult. Actually, it's not if I always joking with my student, if in a grade, I don't care if 98 is 99, it's the same. But in a battery, it's different. 99 is different different from 99.1. 99.2 is different. So how we can effort then to improve this small gap? So then we can increase the cycle life. So if you can increase one more, then you can increase like 1,000 cycles. That is the main goal of the work. So we need to improve this efficiency very effectively. So we need to understand the phenomena. Actually, we also did some DFT computation. So, but build a simplified model, as you mentioned, so we can understand the electrolyte how electrolyte decomposition, because you can put the lithium metal and the electrolyte, and you know what's the product form on the surface by computation. And we also develop many in situ Raman or IR spectroscopy to look at the composition. But my goal is if we can reach the at least 99.9 current efficiency, then I can be rich. But just joking. Yeah, just important to, because based on this, then we have not only on lithium and also other metal. For other metal, maybe it's enough. If like a gene, I probably we can run 500 cycles because it's cheap. It doesn't matter. We can 500 cycles. Probably some application already good enough, so we can replace it quickly. But for lithium, it's different. For lithium, for high value application, we need to have a long cycle life. Yeah, that is. Please.
My question. Thank you very much for the very interesting lecture. My question a little bit on continuation from Armando Pombeiro, but with a wider scope. You know, in Portugal, we have been a lot of discussion about lithium and getting lithium from our reserves. And we always talk about it's going to be limited in time. The amount of lithium is going to be limited. And the same for other metals we are using, nickel and so on. So what you foresee in the future, the best way to get electricity in this way, or the proposal you are having there's replacing lithium by sodium? Could it be a big advantage?
Yeah. So in a battery application, actually you need to divide the application. Like in energy storage, the energy density is not so important because you have plenty of space. So once the space is not important, you can use the sodium ion battery or sodium battery. We are actually didn't report our work on sodium battery, but of course, so you need to differentiate application. So for the application, you need a high energy density, like electric vehicle or like a cell phone. Of course, you need high energy density. But for energy storage, you don't. In energy storage, you just need to be low cost. Energy density is reasonable, it's okay, and it's safe and sustainable. That is so like a sodium or zinc or other alumina. We also work on alumina battery, so that can be applied in energy storage application, not for electric vehicle. Of course, sodium will not apply for electric vehicle application. So you need to differentiate application so that if with this diversity, that put all the application in a lithium ion battery or lithium battery, natural resources is not enough. Yeah, so we need to, even in the future, we probably need to use hydrogen or other fuel cell car instead of or just use lithium ion battery. So we need to develop different tool, different device. So for different application. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we have a question from the audience. Vitor Lobo, you have the floor. I hope I can hear you when we switch to you.
May I speak, Victor? Mr. President, may I speak? Hello?
José. Okay. Professor Vitor Lobo.
Yes. Well, excellent communication. May I congratulate you for this absolutely fantastic communication. Thank you very much. Well, I would like to ask
if I turn on my mic,
a question.
Echo.
It's probably.
In
or
one
can
of
I
your
stop my
slides,
sharing so I can skip it?
Let me see if you can hear the question.
Can you?
I can stop my.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
In one of your slides,
maybe I can dip. Okay.
You have
Vitor Lobo is this one, the third. If you give the floor to the fellow on the third on the line, VL.
Doesn't work, is it?
It's this one. Just give him the line. This VL.
Yes.
May I?
I hope we should press there. The line on this one is probably switched to him.
Okay.
I guess.
But that is.
May I speak?
Okay.
Aqui com a ajuda do. Ok. Com a ajuda do meu colega Zé Francisco, passo a palavra ao Vitor Lobo.
Okay.
All right, may I speak?
Yes, please.
Well, I said, well, excellent communication. Very, very good. Well, my question is, in one of your slides, you said that the global consumption, something like 23,000 terawatts hour per year. Then it looked to me that you said that to produce this amount of energy, you need 2,629 gigawatts. Is this correct? Or did I?
It's a simple multiplication. Okay.
Okay, I get it from internet. Maybe I can check, confirm it is correct or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so since this has been answered.
Well, I mean, if you have technical problems, okay.
For being with us, and have to thank the speaker, the speakers, because we have 3 speakers today, and I hope you accept our apologies for not being everything very smooth here, except that next time I'll bring a computer here, because I'm only with a piece of wood in my hands, and piece of wood is not good enough to answer all the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again. And there's a privilege we have when we are here in this room, and we don't have elsewhere. I hope my colleagues that are here with me accept this is almost completely soundproof. The temperature is almost constant, 20 degrees, 21 degrees, and there is tea outside waiting for us. So thank you again. speakers. Thank you very much. Então, estou por encerrada esta sessão.